Hey, how you doing today? Uh, Tumbleweed Talks here. You remember me, good guy with a black hat. Got a new addition here today. Thought you might get a kick out of Tumbleweed. How about that? Today we're going to continue our discussion of the meaning in life, and going to specifically talk about what I refer to as moral mush. Um, what indeed is the nature of man? Uh, we hear bandied about that man is sinful. Well, there are many folks, Christian and atheist alike, who ardently believe that humans are inherently peaceful and harbor no desires to harm others. Yeah. Yet our history is littered with humans perpetrating violence on other humans. Is it man's nature? From the moment of original sin, it has been in mankind's nature, it seems, to sin. Despite the best of hopes and prayers for this not to be part of human nature, well, the wish to avoid the inevitability of sin, this breaking of trust in God, has plagued us from the beginning. It's compounded with what I'm referring to as moral mush. A couple of nights ago, I listened to a well intentioned senior citizen, of course, I'm one too, offer a sermonette claiming that we resist mankind's inherent peaceful nature. Well, while I shared his earnest desire that it be so, I found myself offended by the sheer naivete of the remarks. As he spoke, I couldn't help but think of the millions of innocent people killed over the centuries, mostly in self serving lusts for power and control. Consider the scope of killing by virtually every civilization in the history of mankind. Babylonians, Egyptians, Mongols, Romans, Nazis, Japanese, communists, and more, right up to today's ISIS terrorists. The left swaths, they left just, just swaths, literally, of rape and pillaging and starvation and murder in their wake. Was it not part of their innate nature? Were they not fully brought into the dark side of self love and self loathing? Let me go back to my Bible. It warns us in Proverbs 14:12. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. That's man's choice. How do we overcome our inherent nature to sin? The only way that I know of is to fully and completely place our faith and trust in God. We seem to find ourselves in today's culture steering a rudderless ship so far as morality goes. We seem to devolve to a state, again, that moral mush keeps coming up. Tumbleweed suggests that it's our failure to take a hard, biblically based stance that has led us down this path to this moral mush condition wherein everyone does what he or she wants. The phrase feasting on ourselves makes a very sparse meal always comes to mind when I think of self-created morality. We simply are not qualified, you or me, or anyone else, to independently determine our own moral imperative. Uh, Jesus offers us wise counsel in Matthew 7:13. He says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who go through it." And we want to be choosy. You see, our tendency morally is to cut ourselves a lot of slack, a wide gate, as it were. Well, we as a culture are in mortal danger of discounting Christ, even among Christians. Yeah. We see it in Christians. We see it in our failure to fend off government encroachment on our religious freedom. We see it in allowing PC police to run amok against our Christian faith. We see it in businesses afraid to express faith, and we see it in shadow conversations about those things. Our morality is looking ever more like a house built on shifting sands rather than rock. We cannot truly embrace sin and Christianity simultaneously. Ain't gonna happen. We may forgive sin, but sin must still be confronted and defeated. And the fact that we ourselves are imperfect and may sin neither condones nor excuses the sin in others. The excuse that sin in me is okay because you sin too, well, is not a viable excuse at all. We must fight the moral mush lest it be the finish of us all. Think ahead for a moment, say to the year 3000. Will there be shared global ethical and moral standards? On what will they be based? Will there be greater love for each other? Will people be God-fearing, God-loving, or God-indifferent? These questions are profound at the least, simple yet complex. First, let's dispel the notion of one world. In Genesis 11:9, you may recall the story of Babel. Therefore, its name is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad across the face of the earth. So, despite the political babble we hear from the United Nations and some secular ideologues, it is highly unlikely that even 1,000 years from now, there will be a unification of the earth's nations. This having been said, it rather obviates the notion of a shared global ethical and moral standard. Biblically based, rock-solid morality would be ideal, but not unlikely. Consider disparate spiritualities, faiths, religions, pseudo-religions, and non-religions, coupled with centuries-old nationalism, and we have a formula for wide differences. We have diversity on steroids, if you will. Real or imagined, the only occurrence likely to unify us, or at least some of us, will be a second coming of Christ and the accompanying Armageddon. From a millennium ahead and beyond is the fabled Star Wars saga, and that plot evolved around centuries of intergalactic warfare. Still thinking 1,000 years ahead to the year 3000 certainly gives us sustenance for fertile imaginations. Perhaps we are tempted to hold out hope for a global peace despite the sinful nature of mankind. Meanwhile, guess what? We seem to have moral mush. Hey, just saying.